All right, so we should be streaming live on YouTube. Just wait for the window to pop up. I'll mute it and we will get into this. What will be an amazing episode, I'm sure.
Indeed, it already is.
Okay, with with the king. All right, here we go. So let me hit the recording. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the Mastermind Body and Spirit Show. I am your host, Matt Belair. As you know, we are facing extreme censorship alongside many other truth seekers out there. If you want to support this show, please share, leave a review, become a member, and most importantly, do 3 kind acts a day wherever you are in the world. Today's guest is a serial entrepreneur, host of the mega successful podcast, The Positive Head, and the late night show, Optimystic. He is the author of the new book, The Golden Key, Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. Welcome to the show, my friend, Brandon Beachum.
My fellow Sultan, Matt Belair, thank you for having me back. I just, you are, you've been teasing me about being a Sultan for many years, but I think you might have taken the throne.
Oh man, I can only hope so, buddy. I'm waiting for you to get those shoes. You know, when we meet and we're at these gatherings in LA and festivals, you've always got just the greatest outfits and jackets. So you always remind me of a Sultan, man. So
I love it.
You have to give me the get up. We'll do a duo one time when the world lets us hang out back together. Maybe at Optimistic. That place is amazing. It's good to see you, buddy. It's good to have you.
Yeah, so good to connect with you always. It's like you wouldn't even know a year plus has probably passed since we spoke, right?
Oh wow.
Like this, face to face.
Yeah, holy smokes. Well, you know, for the audience who doesn't know you, just tell them a little bit about your background, because I think that you're such a great success story in many ways. Podcasting is blowing up. You know, I think you've gotten something like 15 million downloads, something absurd like that. You know, you've been in the game for a very long time. You just wrote a book. You created Optimistic, which is a late night show, but you also have the Mystic Manor. And so you've been working for a long time, and you're also a serial entrepreneur. So you're a bright guy with a beautiful intention, a beautiful heart, and also a strong work ethic. So it balances all those things out. And we've kind of discussed how, you know, you kind of have to problem solve as we go through here, right? People have an idea of what success is, right? But sometimes they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So maybe you want to share a little bit about your story.
Thank you for that beautiful intro, my friend. And yeah, it all started when I was a toddler slinging crack. And no,
like,
what? Yeah, it was crack. I was like, my diaper sagged. And yeah, let's see. Where do I begin? I started, I was raised very conservative Christian. And I started right around 21 or 21-ish, somewhere around there, early 20s. I met someone who had some intuitive abilities, and it just like floored me. It was like so outside of what I had been shown or told was, going on, right? Spiritual centric stuff. And so I was blown away by what I saw, and it caused me to start exploring and looking outside of the dogma that I was sort of fed. And I started reading lots of books, and it was instantly like aha for me. Like, I believe now, looking in retrospect, because my dharmic path entailed, doing 1,400 podcast episodes about the ultimate nature of reality and teaching best what I most need to learn, helping people to remember, come together, realize like we're all one with the source consciousness that creates and animates all things. When I first was getting exposed to this information, then it was just like, oh my gosh, how is everyone not seeing or getting this or understanding that this is how things work? And so, for many, many years, I was just in awe of sort of decoding in my own way what was really going on here, and then testing the waters, because it's one thing to understand a lot of this stuff theoretically, right? And then it's another thing to walk the talk when shit ain't going your way. And so that was a slow process, of just getting slowly better and better at implementing a lot of the ideas and perspectives that I'd been reading about. And ultimately it led to, I had quite the journey. I've been a serial entrepreneur, as you mentioned, since childhood. And, I had a big, sort of probably around 2010, I had a 2009, 2010, one of my entrepreneurial ventures kind of fall flat. And I was on my friend's couch and I was like, okay, I know I've been studying this stuff for years. I know I'm worthy of more abundance than living on my friend's couch in my mid 30s. Like, this does not define me. This is like, I'm learning lessons from this stuff. And, I can call in, I can get it right, manifesting more abundance in my life. And in this case, I was talking primarily about financial abundance because that was what was really lacking in that moment. I had figured out some of the other things about abundance that, like relationships and health and, all of those things I was doing pretty well. And so, yeah, I started, just kind of, as I like to say, be it to see it. I was just in that vibrational flow of I am worthy. I don't know what it's going to be next, but I'm going to find something that unlocks more abundance in my life. And it led me to the travel industry, something I'd never dabbled in, and just, circumstances, breadcrumbs, if you will, led me to starting a travel company. 2011. By 2015, I had 100 plus employees. We're an Inc. fastest growing private company doing 10 million a year plus in revenue, what 1 in 10,000 entrepreneurs ever achieves. And so, it was a great validating moment for me, Matt, because it was like, okay, I'm not just crazy. I can call in some epic shit. It also was quite the hero's journey tale for me, because I went from, my friend's couch to a few years later, Inc. fastest growing private company. We got to the point where we were being offered to, we got an offer to be bought out by a much bigger company for $30 million. Within 12 hours of getting that offer, we lost 90% of our revenue. And we were working with PricelineBooking.com at the time, a lot, doing vacation rentals and, doing like $1 million a month in rental through them. And they partnered with someone else in the industry that was much, much bigger, who did not like us, what we were doing. And so they said, look, we'll partner with you. You got to push this little guy out, basically. And that's what happened. And so, we lost 90% of our revenue. So imagine, here's $30 million. You made it to the holy grail of financial abundance. Oh, never mind, because of course the offer that was on the table was retracted once we lost 90% of our revenue. And then, but it's like a story out of a movie or something, because it got a little worse for me after that, where I started the company, brought my brother in very quickly as a partner. Then I brought in my best friend about a year into it. And then about 4 years into it, we brought in a big wig guy who had exited a company for $1 billion. He was like the man. He represented Mitt Romney to the Catholic community in the 2012 election, to give you some perspective. And so here we brought in this guy. We were these scrappy entrepreneurs. I'm like this weird kind of hippie-esque character, and had never, played in business at this level. So we brought this guy in to help us take us to an exit. And he did. In his defense, he got us to that $30 million offer. But along the way, the year plus he was with us, it really shifted the dynamic of the company. Him and my best friend, the third partner, kind of became like, two peas in a pod, and not peas that you want to hang out with. They were very in their ego, very manipulative, very, me and my brother are super creatives, and we had started everything, but now we had kind of given them equity, and, they had equal power. And at that time, I left day-to-day operations to start the Positive Head podcast, to do this labor of love, more about helping to raise people's consciousness. It's my highest excitement. And so now the power really shifted, and it was a rough ride, especially for my brother, who was there, with them day to day that last year or so. And I remember the last time I'd seen my best friend, months before everything went down, and we lost, we got hit by an asteroid, as I like to say, with losing 90% of our revenue. I remember him saying to me, he said, so Brandon, question for you. Since you started this new podcast, if it were to blow up and get really to be a big thing, what would you do if the new guy, our fourth partner, were to sue you and say he was entitled to a part of it because you started it while you were still on payroll with the travel company. This is how their minds worked, right? And I'm just like, I think about it for a second, Matt, and I'm like, well, if he were to do that, I would give it to him because I'm an infinitely abundant creator, and there's just more where that came from. You can't take what I have, in a sense, right? And little did I know that was like a foreshadowing of, months later, we got hit by this asteroid. We lost 90% of our revenue. Then we uncovered that these two were sort of plotting how to recapitalize and push me and my brother out. Even though we were the founders of the feast and had given them their equity, they had kind of decided I was crazy and, all the spiritual stuff is nonsense and, get this guy out of here. Let's out business him. Right. And let's kind of like pull a Facebook on him kind of vibe. And if you saw that movie where the guy got all his equity pushed out. And so, we uncovered this plot after we just, it's already been rough. And then here's my best friend and this other guy that I'd given equity to. Now they're trying to figure out how to get what's left from me. And we uncovered it just by virtue of our emails had been connected years earlier. And when I used Gmail instead of Outlook, or my brother did, you could see all their emails back and forth. They were like merged. And so I went to him and I said, look, we've uncovered your plot to do this. You don't have to take it. You can actually have what's left. We just want a release to get away from you guys. And as you can imagine, that was not easy considering we'd been offered $30 million weeks earlier. And that's what I did. I got to actually practice I got to walk the talk, right? It happened in a slightly different way, but that's what I did. So fast forward, that was December 24th, 2015. I wrote that email and said, I've uncovered this. Just here, take it. You can have it. We just want a release to get away from you two toxic fuckers. And so now fast forward, to my new book and the Golden Key. In it, I write about the idea of a villain in our story is I had Dr. Eben Alexander on the show. If you're familiar with him, he wrote Proof of Heaven. He's the Harvard neurosurgeon who got meningitis and went into a coma, and then they pulled the plug because his brain was fried. He's not coming back. He miraculously came back, and all he remembered was his time on the other side, right? And one of the things he shared in the book and on my podcast when he was on was I was shown that those who play the villain in our story are often our best friends on the other side to give you that experience your soul wants, to experience this thing called forgiveness. And so, and of course, I have a lot of synchronicity around my birthday. It's a crazy 10-minute story. I won't share it now, but this ex-business partner, his baby mama had my birthday as well as his grandmother. And so, it's like, we were obviously very connected. And so I write in the book about it, like, hey, I got to experience this villain experience from my perspective and offer forgiveness. And even though I no longer had anything to do with him. Now, fast forward to me ordering books after they're finally done. This is going back like a month ago, two months ago, maybe. I ordered the books, the physical books. The book is done. All of a sudden, I get a call on my phone. It's the ex-business partner I haven't talked to in 5+ years. I'm like, kind of shocked to see his name because he never even replied to my email about like, I did hand over equity. I never dealt with him or talked to him again. He never responded. He never and so my partner, my girlfriend's like, Brandon, answer the phone. I'm like, okay. I answer it. And he's like, has just come out of a really intense meditation experience. And he's been now back then, no psychedelics, no plant medicines, spirituality. Like I was the crazy one kind of thing. And now he tells me I've been on this intense spiritual journey and you've come to me many times in meditations and on plant medicines, your higher self. And I don't know. I just want to thank you for my whole life has changed. I'm like, and he's one of these guys, he does everything to the, like an extremist, he's not going to get one Ferrari. He's going to get 5 Ferraris. He's not going to, it's like everything is like intense. And so he's like, I've been on this intense spiritual journey. You've come to me many times and I just want to thank you. And I was just kind of shocked. He goes, and there's something about a book we're going to do together. I can't even write an email. Like, so I don't know, but this is information is coming to me about a book. And I'm like, well, I just ordered a book that I finished writing where you make a guest appearance as the villain and now fast forward to Sunday, a few days ago, we met up in person for the first time, spent the day together. It was very intense energetically. Both of us cried. It was, a great moment of redemption. And now all of a sudden, I was literally late getting on this call because he's calling me like, hey, how can I help you? How can I help promote your new book? How can I, he's someone who in his very extremist way is now all about this world. And he's done really well financially in the last couple of years. The first few years after our departure, he had a really, really rough time, almost considered suicide. And then in the last few years, it's like, he sort of hit the lotto, which doesn't surprise me, with him and how he is. And so now he's like, how can I help you? How can I support you? He just got 100 copies of my book that he wants to get. When I went to his house, he has stacks of books by Ram Dass, and, he just gives these gifts to people. And he's like, just ordered 100 copies of mine that he wants to give out to people where he's labeled as the villain. It's like, where you can't make this shit up. Like it's such a wild journey, and that is a mouthful of an answer for you of how I got to where I am.
Holy crap, man. Well, I knew bits of that story, but I didn't know the details. Like, I can't imagine like one day just like, here's a $30 million buyout. I'd be like, yes, this is amazing. And then you lose 90% of your business. I don't even know if they wrote a movie script like that, people would be like, that's ridiculous. Like, why would he just lose 90% and then get it back and then lose 90%? There's no reason for that. So that is insane, man. That's so crazy.
I'll add a little add on to it. So out of the ashes of that, me and my brother got away from them. We got our release. That's all we got, is a release. So we have nothing to do with the company or them and walked away. And we started a new travel company in a similar space doing slightly different model. And that's done okay. It's done well. And certainly not the rocket ship that the previous one was. But now all of a sudden, a few months ago, the same company that cut us off, PricelineBooking.com, the biggest online travel agency in the world, we just got an incredible partnership with them. So we're basically pivoting and doing this whole new model where how in Priceline you can get like up to 60% off if you bid. Back in the day, like people would bid, but you didn't know where you were going to land and how much if you put in a lower offer, they're like, congratulations, you got it, but guess what, you're at the Holiday Inn that 10 miles away from where you want and it's shitty or whatever. We basically have, because of our past relationship with them, we have a partnership where we're getting those deals, and we're partnering with influencers who we're just basically going to give it's going to be a discounted online travel agency where you get those deep deals, but you actually know what they are up front and where it would be and the bottom line of what you can pay. And then it's going to be like, social travel sharing. It's going to be influencer powered. And then also out of the woodwork came a potential partner. It looks like it's going to happen, who built the biggest real estate platform on the internet and exited $1 billion plus years ago. Now looks like he's going to, I actually expect I could get the offer today of how he comes in as a partner. So it's like all of a sudden, like, out of the ashes, something is in potential that could be way bigger than a $30 million company as well. So it speaks to what I said. It's like, hey, I'm infinitely abundant. You can have it. There's so much more behind this, like, and so it's, what a gift to me to be able to walk the talk and put it into practice, what I'm preaching, and actually see results. So the final story isn't fully out yet. So next episode, a couple years, maybe we'll see how did Hello Vacay, the new travel company, a new, thing do. I have a feeling it's going to really take off based off the model and the partnerships. And then it's like, I would have never even started that had that other, disaster not happened. Right. So.
Holy smokes, man. Well, yeah, that is a master story of just letting go, right? And understanding that you can continue to create, but you have to let go of one thing that is toxic. And then all in the while, you're making the Positive Head podcast. So you're going through this business thing and
Yep.
dealing with all this kind of stuff and making the right moves, when the universe or your reality is giving you challenges and obstacles. And it happens to everyone who is trying to achieve
Yep.
something. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to fail. If you're going to, try and do something that's meaningful to you, you're going to fail. It's just a part of it. But,
Yep.
understanding that you can just get back up and do it again and reconnect to, who you really are, and understand that you'll get those new opportunities. But all of those learning experiences are so valuable. And once you do that, you can do it again. It's like one of my buddies who, Joshua Smith, very successful guy. And, he told me, like, you could take everything from me, and I'll start
Yep.
all over again because I've learned how to
Yep.
build it. And so that's an incredibly empowering perspective. I don't know if I don't know if I have that. I'd love to say I could do it, but we'll see when I get there. Holy smokes. That's nuts. So like, let's talk a little bit about your view on abundance, because we talked a little bit about that at the beginning, and I love your view on it. So what inspired you to write the book, and what is abundance to you?
Great question. So, I start the book out. It's The Golden Key, Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. And I started out like, look, if you're coming to this book because you want to learn how to invest in cryptocurrency, or skip to Starbucks and then do this with it, or, switch to Geico and save $300 a year, this isn't the book. It's not. Yes, financial abundance is a thing. It is one of the forms of abundance, but certainly I wouldn't say even the most important form of abundance. If we're going to gauge, I would say time is. But time, relationships, wisdom, health, all these various forms of abundance, I believe, I know they are our birthright. They are who and what we are. Abundance is our birthright, the quintessence of our being. We are the abundance that we see. And so the book is all about getting to the core. I love, Matt, to go to the root of the root of the root. What's the foundation of this thing we're talking about? How do I, what foundation is it built on? And so, what I believe wholeheartedly is, you and I are the source, that the consciousness that animates my form is the consciousness that animates your form. The separation between us is an elaborate illusion. And so once you go down that road and explore that potential, and it's basically relative truths, as I lay out in the book. Like, from one perspective, you and I are separate. We can make that argument and people could certainly agree with it. From another perspective, maybe less easy to identify, you and I are one. Both are true depending on the vantage point from which we're speaking. So what I lay out is, like, from the ultimate perspective, the ultimate nature of reality, it's all an extension of self. Therefore, all the abundance in this entire universe and beyond the physical universe is an extension of me and I of it. So literally, it is there. What's keeping me from tapping into more of it to use, in a meaningful way in my life? Well, it's like the acorn. If you find an acorn on, a little boy finds an acorn, on the ground and takes it and puts it on his shelf, it's not going to sprout into the oak tree that is its potential. But if you create the right conditions, the right sunlight, the right temperature, the right, water, soil, what does it become? It becomes this epic oak tree, like the tree behind me, sort of, right? So it's just about creating the right conditions for it to emerge. Less, Derek Rydell talks about the law of emergence as opposed to the law of attraction. No, it's not like you need to necessarily attract something external of self, but rather creating the right conditions so that it can emerge through you. And of course, by the way, when a acorn, grows, there's some growing pains there. It splits open. It kind of, it busts. It's like the butterfly and the caterpillar and the butterfly, same kind of thing, and I talk about that. The butterfly, the caterpillar starts off, it destroys everything in its path. It's super destructive. I was talking to my mom about this. She goes, my mom's super dramatic, where I get it from. She's like, yes, you're right. It's just killed my geraniums of 3 years, and and so it's like, and then what happens is, all of a sudden, time does its thing, and all of a sudden these imaginal cells pop up in the caterpillar, and it's like, oh, what is this? Invader, this doesn't belong here, kill it. And that's what it does, which, of course, has happened in our own society. Think back to all the greats who've spoken out about all these great truths. Up, kill it. That Imaginell cell, kill it. And so, but over time, more and more Imaginell cells start popping up and they start working together. And eventually the tide shifts, it turns, and the caterpillar's days are numbered now. And it ultimately turns, this is when it goes into the chrysalis, the caterpillar cells, all the destruction that's precipitated, melt down into a goo. All that pain and destruction that it did and participated in become the fuel that the Imaginell cells feed off of to then make the transformation into a butterfly. And I believe that's where we're at in our current point in our evolution as a society. So we're coming out of the COVID chrysalis, I call it. And so, as we emerge from the COVID chrysalis, I believe the game is changing too. It's a different time. If you want to know the outcome of what any endeavor that you're having now more than ever, what is the intention behind it? The intention will always give you an indicator of what the final outcome is. So, you start to realize, hold on, I'm one with everything. It's all me. And, Gandhi said, if you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. I believe that holds true because there are no others. So, in this book, I break down 8 keys that here's the perspectives. If you apply and implement, read this with an open mind, apply and implement, see for yourself what kind of results they get. Because at the end of the day, I can talk all day, but results speak the loudest. And I've seen from 25 years of deep exploration and bumping my head many times, being a slow learner, but really getting better slowly but surely at implying these perspectives. And they've just led me to so much goodness, Matt. It's like, I'm sold. So I just want to share them with others because I call it the good kind of selfish. If I help you to remember who and what you are and tap into more abundance, I inevitably get more as a byproduct because I'm literally doing it to self. And so, yeah, that's why I wrote this book, because I'm selfish.
Holy smokes, man. Well, that's amazing. And it's all incredibly validating just because of your original story, and what you're able to do. It's like you almost have to be okay with nothing to be able to accept everything or to be able to accept more. It's a weird paradox. It doesn't make doesn't make any sense. But that just shows what I've talked about a little bit is spiritual integrity, right? I feel like we start to sell our souls little bit by little bit by little bit. And then eventually we don't know who we are. Right. And then we're like, what am I doing? I don't like any of this. And so as things kind of heated up in your business, you realize, you know what? I have to get out of this. Right. And you start doing the positive head and move forward. And then you start to test these principles. And everything is great on paper, but it's very hard to apply in life real time. Sometimes it's like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know you've seen this in the spiritual community. We've got these ideas of love and compassion. And I've been in a few places before where it's a lot of posturing, they kind of forget that when they get a little bit frustrated or things aren't going their way or the makeup and everything isn't just quite perfect, you make a mistake.
My eyeshadow isn't quite right.
Yeah. Like it happens. It's like, no, well, that's kind of the challenging part. It's really easy, to be spiritual and everything's perfect, right? It's really easy to do all these things when everything is going well, but when everything is not going well, that's really when you test your resolve and who you are and how you're going to stick to your principles and your values. It's another thing. So why don't you start sharing some of these 8 keys? Cause I want to know them. I want to apply them and see how I can, implement them in my life.
Yeah. I love everything you just said. And it's like Charles Bukowski said, well, paraphrasing, all that matters is how gracefully you walk through the fire. So I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a meme that floated around for years of Bob Marley laughing. He goes, when you finally realize by needing nothing, you can have everything. And it is that paradox. And it's like, this chasing thing, we're constantly chasing. And then you realize like, hold on, by virtue of me existing, I am enough. I am as valuable and worthy of abundance as any other being ever has been, could be, or will be. When you start thinking of, and really tapping into that, the truth of that statement, that the universe has evolved for 14 or so billion years, just through just think of all the iterations it's went through to land as Matt Belair in this moment, the pinnacle of its evolution, the tip of the spear. And we're going to sit there and critique that incredible feat and say, oh, well, Matt Belair should be doing this differently or have that. And he's not, maybe he's not worthy, or whoever's listening is like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I mean, just last 400 years, you have thousands of grandparents, thousands of grandparents, the choice points, the pain, the hardship, the sacrifice that was made for you to be in this now moment. It's like, you're already it. You already are abundant. You already are success just by virtue of being. So it's, I think that's a foundational piece that I really try and weave through the book, because there's nowhere to go that's any more valid than right here. And so, we're constantly seeking to do things to get somewhere. And I was talking to a guy the other day that does the Spirituality Meets Business podcast, and he's created $1 billion organization. And he said something really great. He said, I realized I was doing everything as a means to an end. If I do this, then I'll get this. If I do this, then I'll get this. If I do, it's like my whole life. Oh, okay. Now it's time to go. If I go here, I can go get a coffee. If I do that, it's just like nonstop, a means to get something more. And he's like, okay, if that's what life there's a lot of, I need to get into the state of being the means. Like, be the means, like make that where all the joy is, these process of whatever it is that I'm doing. Like it's not so much about getting the end result, but being that process. So another way to kind of say it that I really liked, kind of a way to be in the now. And, one of my fifth key is BBB. And I tie in, I love etymology and I love plays on words, and I have lots of synchronicity in my world. And, it wasn't lost on me. When I realized, hold on, my initials are BBB, and I am someone who is constantly, such a doer, go here. When I was little, my parents were like, my dad's like, we couldn't hold you. You were like, no, you had shit to do. Like you were, don't hold me down. I got work. I got things to explore. And it's like, so as someone who does a lot, and I know you can relate to this too, it's like, you got to be really careful with that. At what cost? At the expense of the present, which is the gift. And if you can be the means, and that means you can still be what you are naturally, someone who is wanting to make a lot of moves in this world. There's nothing wrong with that, but make sure you're really enjoying that journey. The journey is the goal. That is, how many people who are really successful, uber successful, you could look back on and ask, Jeff Bezos right now, hey, is where you're at right now better than, when that I don't know if you've ever seen that picture of Jeff Bezos in like a garage with Amazon written all scribbled in crayon on the fucking wall behind him. Like, it's like, I'd love to ask him, hey, was that a more beautiful time for you, or where you're at right now? Right. And a very good chance he would say that, or equal, or, you know what I mean? Certainly, I doubt he would say, oh gosh, I hate those memories are awful of this ride. And so it's, a lot of times with financial abundance, it's a lot of, triggered energy around, and that it gets, it's bad or wrong. And it's like, nothing is inherently good or bad. It's like, what are you doing? How are you approaching it? What is your relationship to it? And so I really try and help people to see all of these perspectives that, the only thing, Matt, I'm really good at is telling good stories. I think like that, if I were to analyze myself, it's like, oh, you're really good at telling stories about yourself. Like, oh, I don't believe in getting sick. I just made that shit up. But then it's like abracadabra means I create as I speak. And, with words, our words are our wands. We're spelling, we're literally casting a spell. I'm not going to say I've never been sick, but like literally 46 years old, I've never been in a hospital. I think I've thrown up maybe a dozen times. It's like, I can barely remember ever being sick my whole life. And all I did is just tell a story around it. So once you start, playing with these ideas of how powerful our perspectives are, and it's great because I also merge a lot of the science into it to help back some of this. I mean, you're seeing, of course, placebo, 30% of, all healing, including surgery, is placebo. It's like, wow, this is how powerful we are. We are creators, and so, yes, there's a time and place for the action piece. Certainly not just, nothing irritates me more then this, and I think you're similar in this. Like, in our community, there can be a lot of like this, oh, I'm going to integrate from the corner in lotus position. And, I'm going, it's like, yes, would you like to hire me? I'll send distance Reiki from my room and you can pay me for that. It's like, no, thank you. I got shit to do. like, so it's a fine line. It's really about finding that balance. I believe the next great art form is the art of manifestation and creating the life of our dreams, and we're all worthy of it. And it's just having the right tools and creating the right conditions to do it. And with the book, I also tried to distill this stuff down as much as I could, because as you can see, I'm pretty excitable and verbose. So I've talked about this stuff over 1,400 episodes, and it's like, what if I actually, thank God my partner is a speech therapist, just got her master's. Like, we're like yin and yang. She's super concise. And so we and her delivery is like so poignant and precise. So if we sat down with, if you, when you read the book, you'll see, special thanks to my partner in time, Karen, for helping to distill my infinite perspectives. We literally sat down. Okay, Brandon, let's distill this. So what we landed with was 100 pages, about 3 hours to listen to, of all of my 25 years of exploration. And then, of course, I thought, okay, I always want to do things in a unique way, if at all possible, to at least feel like I'm not one with everything, and that, I can experience this identity, this avatar Brandon Beachum, in a unique way. So it's like I had a dream that came to me August 6th on how I would distribute the book. And the idea was, okay, gift it and then invite people after the fact to decide what it's worth to them, and tie it into an abundance manifestation game. And this whole thing was shown to me. And then it was great because I got up and I thought, oh, what would I call this? This is a great concept. And I got the download. Okay. What would I call it? Oh, the golden key would be great. I search if someone else has used that name. There's a guy in 1931 named Emmett Fox who shares a very short essay called The Golden Key that's very famous. I didn't know of it. And it's like, just reading the Amazon blurb, it's like, I dare you to try it and see for yourself. And it's like the same ideas, but from 100 years ago. And so, that's what I ended up doing. And then, now anyone can, as long as you have a golden key code, you can download the audio or ebook. And then any money that flows into the game, I share with all the people who are participating and sharing codes. And just like an opportunity to practice what I preach and walk the talk. And once again, I know the more I give, the more I'm going to receive, because it's coming from a pure intention. And, it doesn't mean always just go give everything away. It's like, what is the intention? What is the energy? Do you align with the person that you're supporting? It's not always a healthy thing to give the homeless person necessarily the person experiencing homelessness, all empty your wallet. Maybe it could be. Maybe it's the worst thing you could do for you and them, So it's like, what is the intention? How does it feel? What is your intuition telling you about this? So, for me, it's like my intention is like super pure. A lot of people read it and don't ever contribute anything. Great. Other people come back and it's like, I've had people contribute, $444, and so it's like, whatever feels aligned for you. There's no right or wrong or requirement. And so it's been really fun to gamify it in this way and just see how people interact, and then of course, getting people to share their stories of abundance is also a thing that I'm asking people to do as well. So.
Holy smokes, buddy. Well, I love all that. I think it's brilliant. And you touched on so many great topics and perspectives I feel are important, especially the process piece, the way that, to go through the process as a complete human being. And the example that I offer is like, I have a daughter now. And I know that you have kids. So how many kids do you have? One or two?
Yep. One.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like, are you good enough when you have when you're 6 years old or 15 years old or 20 years old? Are you good enough when you develop this skill or this amount of money or this job? And so if we kind of imagine nature and an oak tree, and when it's a seed in the ground, and then is he good enough when, he kind of gets above the soil? He's like, oh, yay, I'm above the soil now, right? Or is it when he gets the roots and has the first branches, then he's good enough? You know what I mean? It's his process. And that's what you're speaking of. And I really love the way that you put that, like being the means and understanding the journey aspect of, because it's challenging to do that. And so I'd love for you to kind of dive into that a little bit more, and then maybe share some of the more of the codes as well, because I love your analogies. I think they're great.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah. Yeah.
how do
Thanks.
we engage in the process? Like I like to say, how can you be whole, complete, harmonious, and full of self-love in the process? Right. So to be
Mm,
those means, I had this podcast with Sewa, who's a Native American, and she was telling me about doing a vision quest, and it's 5 days, no food, no water on the side of
wow.
a mountain in Arizona where it's hot. And she told a
Woo!
story about, yeah, how like she was communicating with the plants, and then the plants told her, well, where do you get all your food? And she said, well, it's the mother, and it's Mother Earth. So she goes, okay, well, go lie down. And the plant told her to lie down. And then she was she's like, okay, mother, like I'm thirsty, please help. And she said, my body started to get satiated. And so I
Wow.
do think that there's a link to this field and also the earth, right? Obviously, we live off the earth, it's common sense, but where are the limits to that, right? And so, as far as our abundance goes, what are the limits to that in the fiat currency, or in time or resources, or what we want the money for is freedom. And so the other thing I wanted you to touch on is like, how is it possible to apply this when you also accept that you have nothing, right? You're in the struggle
Hmm.
right now. It's like, Brandon, yeah, I want to have abundance, but right now I have nothing, right? How do I get in that means? So feel
Mm,
free to tackle that rant any way
yeah.
you wish.
Yes. I love that. I love that. So it's, of course we are fractals of source. And so I've heard it said, Osho talked about this with God, higher self, consciousness, the universe, whatever you want to call it. It's like it is everything and nothing simultaneously. It emerges from the void. So we are, you know, simultaneously everything and simultaneously nothing. And in our experience, it happens in the dance between those vantage points. So the idea of having nothing, your abundance is very limited. That is just a spectrum of all the potential that is. So as you talked about earlier, that idea that by being okay with having nothing, that unlocks everything. Or the third patriarch of Zen says the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. So when you start to say, okay, this life is happening for me, not to me. I am here. My intention is pure. I want to do good. I want to be a force for love. And by doing the podcast as long as you have too, when you get the feedback like, hey Matt, I found your show and it has helped me so much, that fuels you for like another 100 episodes, right? Like it isn't giving that we receive. And so, when you say, okay, my intention is to give in any way I can. And who's to say me reaching 15 million people downloading my show is any more valid or helpful to the world than you talking to the woman at Starbucks for 2 minutes, who then goes on to take what you say, it plants a seed, it's divine timing that sprouts within her, that now she shares with her child, who then is raised with this perspective that you shared in 2 minutes at Starbucks, and they go on to be the next, president of planet Earth or whatever. You know what I mean? We don't know.
Yeah,
And
100%, 100%. I just wanted to kind of chime in on that one, because I was doing a call with my group the other day, and one of them was telling the story about going to get his haircut, and how that he was just sharing and influencing and them, and talking about some of these aspects and some of the things that's going on in the world. And she wanted more information, but he's not on YouTube. He doesn't do any of the social thing. And I was like, that's how you walk the path. It doesn't matter, that I have a podcast or anything like that. You're
yep,
doing it in the walk of life. So I just wanted to chime in with that story, because I totally
yep.
agree with what you're saying.
So true. So true. So what's so empowering when you can say, when you start to understand, I am exactly where I'm supposed to be, like source, the what's happening behind the curtain. It's like, I believe when we pass and we can see everything from an expanded vantage point, you're going to see there is a perfectly woven web where everyone was getting exactly what they need to become the next greatest and grandest version of themselves. So when you can start to, one of my keys in the book is trust the mystery. When you get into a place where it's like, I don't have all the answers, I don't know everything. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. But I trust the mystery. I trust that there is a force, that love is the thread that ties all existence together. And so at its core, it's all happening for love. Like the betrayal of my business partner. It was happening for love. It was happening. It's like my favorite book of all time is a book by Neil Donald Walsh. Highly recommend it, called The Little Soul in the Sun. It's a children's book. It's for children of all ages. And it's so powerful. It's like these souls are in eternity, and they're blissed out, marvelous beings, divine beings. And then one of the adventurous ones has an idea that never's been thought before. I'd like to experience a concept outside of this idea of forgiveness. And then he starts this dialogue with the sun, which is a metaphor for God. And, he's like, oh, you always were the adventuresome one. I knew you'd come up with this. He's like, well, there is a way. I've already thought through it, and you will create a place where you can go. And, then there will be, the only thing that will be required is one of your fellow lights, these divine sparks that are here, brilliant beyond words, will need to lower their vibration and go down and forget themselves so that they can do this awful thing to you and it be authentic, so that you can have an authentic experience of forgiveness. And, then another soul steps forward and says, I love you so much. I'll volunteer. I'll do this. But please, in the moment I do this awful thing to you, please remember me as I am here now, because I will have lowered and dimmed my light so much, I'll have completely forgotten myself. And if you don't remember me, I may stay lost for a very, very, very long time. And it's just like, no one can hardly read this book without crying. Like, get it for your daughter, get it for yourself. Like, I believe, the story of mankind. And so when you start to understand, okay, hardship is happening to me, I've had all this challenge. Hey, if you've had a lot of trauma and hardship out there, congratulations. Your soul is such a badass that you signed up for that extreme contrast so that you can now land on this podcast. You're such a close vibrational match to what me and Matt are talking about here, that out of the billions of things vying for your precious attention, you buy what you pay attention to, right? You're resonating with this because you were such close reflections. And it's like, wow, you're at this point in your journey that you're ready to really embody and understand all of this. That's a really potent place to be in your journey. And you've paid the dues. And so now you just, like, instead of like wanting or wishing for more or judge, a lot of people in this day and age are projecting onto, like, oh, I could never be what Matt is. Look at, yeah, he's got this and that going for him. I don't have that. Or look at her on Instagram. She's so beautiful. Of course, she's got 1 million followers and I've got 1,000. Like, all of that. Once again, it's the story that you tell. The story I tell is, it's such a close vibrational match. Like, that which is likened to itself is drawn, right? This is the way it works. It's like this. So instead of saying, oh my gosh, I could never have that, if I see something I admire or want more of in my own world, it's like, oh wow, it's getting closer. I'm such a close vibrational match that it's here in my face in this moment. And it's a total shift from creating separation between you and this other thing that you admire or want more of in your life, to actually making it inclusive as a part of your being. And so that is, it's such a big key to start to shift things. So many people out there are like, they're analyzing, they're thinking, oh wow, I do that all the time. I'm always creating separation. It's not separation. You're missing it. It's actually showing you, it's you. It's another part of you reflecting so closely, you're calling in more of it. And now you have a different energy about it, and you're like grateful for it, and you send it love, and you want to see them thrive more, because their thrival is your thrival. Their abundance is your abundance. And so, it's like getting to this place where you're like, I let go. I surrender to what is. I trust the mystery. And I know it's not if, but when, till I have all of the things that I seek. And a lot of times people are, say expectation is bad. It's the enemy. Like, I don't believe that at all. Expectation is divine. It's a part of, we came here to make these choices and set aims and goals and go for things with a healthy sense of detachment. I tell this story of, it's this or something better. Oh, okay, I want to do this thing. It didn't work out for me, but by taking that step, it led to another thing, which led to another thing, which led me to where I'm really supposed to be. So you just trusting the journey. It isn't over if you haven't won yet. And so if you can start living your life from there, then you can relax. Because here's the thing. a billion Earth years from now, you're going to be existing in some now moment, growing and expanding. It's never ending what we are. Thank goodness. So we never get bored. Ultimately, source is infinite. God is infinite. Our brain can't really wrap itself around that very well, except just kind of like poke at it and try and understand it. But you are an infinite, eternal being. Get used to the journey. It's going to shift, twist, turn, up, down, left, right, all kinds of ways. You want to move into your center where it's like that unmoved mover within that's observing it and trusting it and just saying, okay, what is, I'll always have enough information about what I should do next. And there is no wrong steps. It's always going to lead me to the growth that I need.
Wow, brother. Well, that is truly epic. I absolutely love all that. And you're right about the unfolding process. And I feel like that can be the real challenge. It's surrendering to what is in that moment, whatever that is, right? Whatever you have, and another one out there that for certain people, they want to learn more, right? They're like, oh, when I get this degree or when I get this course or when I read this book, then I'll be good enough. Then I'll have it. Or when I listen to this podcast, and kind of forgetting that journey aspect to be whole, complete, and harmonious in the process. And it's definitely something that I could certainly improve upon. And I'm wondering if you spoke on the mystery a little bit, and if you could elaborate on, when people go through challenges, how do we remember that? How do we be that? We've got Viktor
Mm.
Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, which is an extraordinary book of somebody going through incarceration in Nazi Germany, and having no freedoms at all, just everything stripped. And he said the last
Yep.
of the human's freedoms is to choose one's own perspective in any given situation. And I feel
Boom.
like we touched on this, but it's that power of saying, you know what, I am content with nothing, kind of like Eckhart Tolle when he had his awakening experience and then was quote unquote homeless for 2 years. He's like,
Yep.
I need nothing, right? I need nothing. And what you're speaking about is this intention, right? We can intend and we could miss, and that's okay. It's not being attached to the result. And I remember when I was in Nepal and I was learning from the monks there, and we were talking about desire. And I said, I wrote this book, and my desire is to have 1 million kids read it to influence them positively through this education that I've learned through my life around psychology and spirituality and all these different things. And then he goes, as like, and so I heard desire is the root of suffering. And he goes, no, that's not desire. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, that's not desire. It's not for you. And so in the giving, it's the gift, and
Yep.
like you said with the podcast. So I desire to help. It's a different thing. I'm not desiring to get a house, although that will be nice. And I will appreciate that house or that abundance when it comes, but it's the intention, and then surrender the result. But what for sure is if you are intending something that is congruent with your own spiritual, moral, mental principles and who you are. And that's what you can do. That's what you can control. And so I just know that so many people out there that are living the normal life and working a 9 to 5, things are kind of stressing out a little bit. Maybe some things are falling away. How do you help them get to that space? Because surrendering completely is a challenge, right? It's like, let go.
Hmm.
I know you've just lost your job and you're
Yep.
over on your bills, right? You're telling me to
Yep.
let go. I'm in a tough
Yep.
spot here, you hippie.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep.
so how do you address that?
Yeah. What a great challenge to be set up with. And what I ask anyone to say who's in that sort of spot is, think back of all the challenges that you've had in your life. You always found a way through it. There was always something that happened to lead you here. You didn't cease to exist. You'll leave this place when you're done growing. That's what I believe. So you're going to be here, and there's going to be, there's always a way is found. I mean, I think back on challenges and times I've been really stressed. I've had extremes of, my son's 22 now, and he can remember scrounging for change to buy tacos and living in, super luxurious mansion. He's had the contrast. So I've seen all the sides of it, and I'm grateful he got that contrast, that experience. So if you're in the contrast of scrounging for the tacos, congratulations. It's pointing you to a place where you're not putting your worth on these external circumstances. And it sort of forces you to either panic, stress, what you resist persists, right? So that's the tricky part. So if you panic, stress, anxious, oh my God, things are falling apart, it's like, abracadabra, I create as I speak. So it's like smooth seas never made for a skilled sailor. And you came here to be a skilled sailor. So here you go. The seas are rough. And how gracefully are you going to deal with it? How can you continue to, not slip into panic? And one of the key ways to do that is what you're doing right now, listening to something like this, right? It's soothing. It's a vibrational offering that we're making in this moment. We're literally inviting you into a pool of it's okay. You are it. You already won. Your worth has nothing to do with what's happening out there. That's just you in training, right? That's not defining you in any way, shape, or form. Are you kidding me? You're an infinite divine being that is as worthy as any being ever has been. Like literally, as Rumi said, you're not a drop separate from the ocean. The ocean's in the drop. Literally, all of existence, it resides in your DNA, in the fabric of your soul. And so tuning into things like this is a real good way to help. I always say there's only one job all of us have. Many, many life paths and careers and journeys, but one similar thread. Our number one job is to manage our vibration. And you be it to see it. So listening to things like this, go walk in the sun, get some exercise, all the things Matt is so good at teaching and walking the talk with, that care of your physical temple, doing, these are things they don't cost money, right? It doesn't matter. So if you can start focusing on, Osho said also, everyone should meditate at least 20 minutes a day. Unless you're too busy or stressed, you should meditate an hour. It's like so you got too much on your plate. Oh, you really need to. It's like it's almost counterintuitive, to go. I gotta panic and do things, to move things around to fix the problem. There is no out there. Out there is showing up as a vibrational reflection of who and what you're being. Most people do something like work in order to have something like money, in order to be something like happy. But that's actually not the way the formula works. You're chasing your own creations that way. You be something like happy, and you find yourself doing and having the things that are a reflection of that state of beingness. And so the good news is all the work and all the tools you need to elevate out of the situation and shift the situation are right where you sit, because it's all within you. And yeah, that sounds cliche or like, oh, okay, that easier said than done, right? You're not in this situation I'm in. And that's where the great work lies, right? And tuning into things like this, doing things, what I can do is make a small choice to shift my vibration. I feel depressed, but I can choose an apple instead of the Doritos. Maybe I can get up and go get this, the sun on all of my body, wear a bathing suit or little to nothing and let the sun absorb into my skin our father's energy. If Mother Earth, Father, Sun, is let that permeate. We actually can see physically it completely shifts. One of the greatest way to shift you out of a funk is to get in the sunlight. It's going to shift. You have the greatest pharmacy in your brain, and it reacts to these things. So these little things, and we know, if I take and shoot a love bomb, a missile from here to Canada, and I'm in California, and I set a course for it right for Matt's door, and all of a sudden I tweak it by 1 degree, it lands in Russia or something. One little shift over a long period of time has incredible amounts of butterfly effect. So understanding that, you don't, a lot of times I think people think they need to eat the whole elephant in one meal, right? It's like these little things, little shifts, and then that momentum builds, and then on that, and it becomes this exponential thing. And one of the greatest, easiest ways is moving your body, getting in the sun, and listening to things like this to help rewire your neural networks. That's really what it's doing. It's when I started the podcast, if you listen to episode 1, I say, you know what, if one person hears this, it's going to be worth it. And it's going to help one person already. I know me. So I already won. Like, so literally I did it for that reason. I'm going to do it 5 days a week because I'm going to just retrain my brain. And so now it's like second nature for me to view through this lens. It doesn't mean I don't ever slip into anxiousness, depression, or anger or any of those things, but now it's like I can't get 10 seconds down the road with it that all these concepts are coming up. Well, Brandon, but you know this. Next thing you know, I'm viewing it from a perspective that serves me, and then I transmute the challenge into the blessing. That lump of coal is always a diamond in disguise, waiting for us to see it and approach it from the right perspective to transmute it.
Yeah, brother. Well, I love all that. That was amazing once again. And one of the concepts I think that we're touching on here is that life is challenging. I think that we often think that, it's supposed to be this easy road. And you gave the analogy of smooth seas don't make for skilled sailors. And so what do we expect as we go through life, right? If you want to be a good martial artist or athlete, which is the background I understand, you have to go through challenge. You lift weights, you do cardio. Cardio is terrible. You're always constantly pushing yourself, but it is that challenge that makes you stronger. And so if we can understand that, and that's what I learned from the Buddhists as well. And Alan Watts says it really well, where he said, in Buddhism, they say life is suffering, but more accurately translated as life is frustrating. And so if we understand we're going to have these ebbs and flows, we're going to have these challenges, we're going to have these ups and downs, but we remember that we have infinite capability and connection to source within us and who we actually are, who we truly are. So then the challenge is, can we be content and happy, right, with where you are? And so if wherever you are in the process, if you can't be content and happy, it won't matter what that next thing is. Whatever that next thing will morph into another thing. It will morph into another thing. It will morph into another thing. It'll morph into infinite things. And so training yourself to be content, happy, and whole with nothing, with wherever you are, with what you know, with what you have, with what you've done, right? Making peace. And you're like, okay, I can, and learn how to do that and be in that state. And then everything else is a bonus, but that isn't responsible for your happiness. It isn't a little bit of more money. It isn't a little bit more of a house. It isn't like, oh, now a lot of people get in the trap with relationships. Oh, if I had this relationship, then I'd be happy. Well, you want to be in a relationship where you're whole and complete and harmonious, because then you're depending on that other person for your happiness. What do you bring into that other person, right? And we see that all the time. And so I think that those things are incredibly important. I'm reminded of when I went to the Dr. Joe Dispenza advanced workshop. He starts to share a little bit more stories there, some of the weirder esoteric ones. And this one's pretty normal for some of the other stories he told, but he was talking about one of his friends was really, really wealthy, and he took him out for lunch, and he said, "Oh, Joe's like, how are you today?" And he's like, "Oh, I just lost like some sort of stupid amount of money, like 50 million or $100 million, and I'm broke." And Joe's like, "Oh my goodness." And he's like, "But my friend wasn't stressed. He wasn't stressed." He's like, "Oh no, I'll get it back." Like he's in the vibration of abundance. He can fully surrender to nothing, and then and be open to everything. And one example I like to give to people is that if you could imagine like, being homeless or whatever, and say, even if you start with nothing, you have all the capabilities within you to use effort, to use perspective, to use all of your skills to grow. It'll grow over time. And you want the challenge. It would be no fun if we manifested immediately. There would be no challenge, no fun in that. You wouldn't earn it. And so we all get to earn our own place. Ideally, we can do it easier, right? But sometimes people who face those greatest challenges, they end up rising to the top. They're able to see the polarity. And I just went through the Kybalion, and it talks about polarities. And so the farther you go down, the more power you have to even go up, to see the other side, to alchemize what was at the bottom, to bring you to an even higher level. So you need to make peace with whatever the opposite of that pole is. So if it's prosperity, it would be, lack of prosperity and having nothing. And so the real power would be, can you be content and whole? And that would be a very powerful place to live and experience life from. Easier said than done, probably. But
there's the work.
but nonetheless true. So do you want to add on to that a little bit?
Yeah, I would like to add on to that a little bit. So yeah, the deeper, the higher the branches, the deeper the roots, right? It's a necessary contrast. So this idea that it should all be love and light and abundance and prosperity, you don't want that. Your soul didn't want that. It's why you created this place. So you get into this vibration of, oh, okay, so I can actually see the beauty and the joy in all of it, especially if I can see it in the challenges. Now you're a badass. Now you're an artist. You're a artist. You've never seen a great work of art without shadow in it. So these are all, this is what you signed up for. It's like a challenge. My magician friend, who's super vibrant and excitable. He's just like mind blowing magician. And the other day he was talking to someone. He's like, someone was complaining about the challenges and depression. And he said to her, yes, this is what you came here for. This is why you do it, and it's like, whoa, what a shift in perspective. So the question that's always being posed to you by the universe is, you are it all. What part of it all do you want to experience next? It is all, it is all, oh, can you hear me still?
I can hear you. Your video
Okay.
just froze.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Got it. So it's all as necessary and relevant as any other part of it. So, right in this moment, what part of it all do you want to experience next? You want to experience pain, separation, doubt, hardship? That's as valid as, abundance and success and, health and hey, there's no better. It's all necessary for this is God-godding. This is how God experiences herself, all of it. So, the question is always, when you come holding your bag of sugar to be filled, it will be examined to see how large it is. What do you want? What do you ask? What are you calling in next? And then as soon as you ask for it, it's as good as done in the timeless state. Now your job becomes to align vibrationally so that it can actually emerge, creating the right conditions. You have to be a vibrational matcher. You can't say, okay, I want, the relationship of my dreams and, incredible health. And then, go and do things that are not health validating and having toxic thoughts all day about how women are all liars and men are cheats. And, and like, you've got to become a match for it vibrationally. And that's where the work lies. But really, as far as calling in any, abundance in your life, to manifest, it's all just stuff. How much of the faucet are you turning on? It's like the guy who said, oh, I lost 50 million. Oh, no big deal. I could do that the same way someone else would say, oh, no big deal. I lost $50. I can make that again. Because it's all, the vibration, the story. It's like, and of course the universe just reads and monitors what the belief and the energy is and the action and the whole, manifestation soup that they're cooking up, and then serves it right back to them.
Oh, buddy. Oh, okay. You just stopped talking. You froze and then you stopped, so I couldn't tell. Yeah, man. I love all that. And you're so on point with everything. I think that it's incredibly challenging sometimes to go through some of those hardships, but like you said at the beginning, maybe you want to retouch on that, but like, how do you getting to that state of just being whole? And that's really the key, talking about you're good enough where you are now. You are enough as you are. And I like when you talked about the vision, because when I worked with pro athletes and we're looking at becoming an Olympic gold medalist, or we're talking about becoming a pro snowboarder, or we're talking about Nitro Circus with some of the freestyle motocross riders that I work with. Sometimes that's a 5-year aim. If you're a kid, it might be a 10 or 20-year aim. And one of the people in the coaching group that I run, they were talking about the story of living. They were in their new home and they were looking out in nature. They were in the city that they wanted. They could see the mountains. They were back in nature. It was a 10-year journey. 10 years. And she had this, like, she was explaining to myself and the group, like this feeling of, it's almost like one of those awakening experiences that are mystical, and you have that kind of oneness moment that many of us have had. And it's powerful. And she's like, it's like that, but it's so grounded. It's simple and it's warm and it's normal. And I like Wayne Dyer's quote. He says, "I am practical, I expect miracles." And sometimes it's that duration. So when you talk about, the time element of it, that's
Mm-hmm.
so important. It is done. If you want to improve your health, well, you can do that. It might take 6 or 8 months of certain decisions to happen, and then you can have the health that you want. If it's finances, okay, great. It might take 6, 12 months, 18 months, whatever, but it'll happen. You'll get there, and you're going to deal with the challenges and things that arise. And through that process, if you must get that thing right, that example of your friend, means to an end, right? If it's the means to an end to get that money, and the whole time you're going to be miserable, you're not going to be good enough, life sucks, you're going
Yep.
to miss all of that beauty through the day. And the book, The Peaceful Warrior, has been coming up lately because
Mm.
the philosophy guy, or the master in that book,
Socrates.
Socrates, yeah, he's a gas station attendant. He's
Yep.
nothing, he's nothing special by what the Western world would say. And he would just talk to you and just share, yeah, like, why is this not good enough? You know, am
Yeah.
I not good
Right.
enough that I'm a gas station attendant? I get to talk to my community each day. Is that not enough? Right. And
Yep.
it's such a beautiful perspective. And I feel like what you're offering from this is, hey, infinite possibilities do exist. Also recognize other forms of abundance, time, relationships, what the money can bring as far as freedoms, and then connecting to these universal and ancient principles, but really with the core teaching of, being whole as you are. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Absolutely. It's like, from the grandest perspective, the think of it like this: like, you're so abundant, who and what you are at the core of your being, that you were able to abundantly create a universe, or a physical dimension, where you could experience the lack of abundance, which is counterintuitive to what you are at your core. And so it's like, it's all abundance, right? It's all happening. Like, the lengths that had to be gone to for me to have the experience of, losing the $30 million offer and being betrayed by my best friend, right? Think of the setup and energetic planning and resources that went in to that being able to happen. Someone said, "Oh, okay, well, this soul that currently identifies as Brandon wants to have that experience. Okay, well, we're going to need to create a planet. We're going to probably need to take this guy over here who's a divine angel and lower their vibration enough to be able to do this thing, like the little soul in the sun talks about. Okay, we're going to need it's going to take lifetimes of ancestors living to evolve to the point." And I mean, just it's like, it's all about, it's like, it's all happening for love, same kind of thing. At the end of the day, when all the chess pieces go back in the box, it was all happening so love could mean something. Because if we're one, and we're one with source, and all is one, and God is love, that becomes meaningless without any contrast. There's no other to experience what love even is. And so therefore, what it doesn't even calculate. So create separation, create other, create contrast, and now, come back to it. And now it means something. I think of my brother, when he was in his early 20s, he didn't pay a ticket and he had an open container ticket and on the beach, and then he didn't ever pay it. And then years later, he got pulled over and they took him to jail. And he went to jail for like 4 days, which is kind of absurd for what it was, but it was divinely designed for him. He's the most sensitive person I know to this day. He's like so sensitive. So him in jail is just like, I mean, it's a really funny thing to imagine, knowing him the way I do. But he got out, and they released him at midnight, and so they could get paid for one more day or whatever. And then I picked him up by 1 a.m, got him home, and I cooked a hot pocket for him. And to this day, he says that hot pocket was the best meal he ever had. So that contrast is what we're talking about, right? That contrast is what we longed for. So if you're in the far end of the contrast, that's challenging. If like I think Winston Churchill said, you're going through hell, keep going. Because on the other side of that, the deeper the roots, the higher the branches. So congratulations. Guess what's ahead of you? And all you need to do to get there is start making a daily conscious effort to manage your vibration. find ways, little shifts, little changes, tuning into more of Matt, reading more stuff that is affirming of this, rewiring your brain, swimming in the vibrational pool of the abundance that is ultimately your birthright and waiting for you to align with it.
Brother, that's amazing. I absolutely agree and love all that. It's practical and it's true, and I love it. My friend, this has been a treat. I know that you're a busy man. Now you're just exploding. You're back on the upswing of the travel story. So I'm happy to hear
here we
that.
grow.
Yeah, there we go, man. And so is there anything else that you wanted to share or talk about before we close this?
Yeah, well, let's see. For one, I would love to share in collaboration with Matt. I would love to share the golden key with each and every one of you, because I'm selfish. I know if I help enough of you to ground in these perspectives more and more into your life, only good things flow back to me. Only good things flow back to Matt. And so what I've done, if you guys go to goldenkey.gift, you can download the audio or ebook as a gift. And all you need to use is at checkout, just use the golden key code mastery. And when you use the key code mastery, you'll be able to download either or both. And yeah, and then if you're really feeling it at the end, optionally come back and play the Golden Game, which is an abundance manifestation game that we're actually expanding. Even the way we're now creating a Facebook group so we can support each other through that. It's like an 88-day journey of doing exercises every day to further ground in this vibration. And yeah, it's I'd love for you all to experience that. And like I said earlier, what's great about it is, it's really 3 hours distilled in a very, step-by-step way of like, key 1, ground this in, key 2, ground this in, key 3. And these are the things that I fumbled around for 25 years to really get so that I could distill it into here it is in 3 hours, So yeah, goldenkey.gift, gift code mastery. And yeah, other than that, of course, happy to connect with any of you guys. I'm on social media, and of course the Positive Head podcast, and where I continue to do my daily vibrational offering to help people stay in this swimming in this pool as well. So.
Awesome, man. Well, I highly encourage you guys to check out the book. This was amazing. And, it's awesome. I love the format of giving it out for free, because that's amazing. And then, if people want to support, then support. What a beautiful way to do it. What a beautiful way to share the knowledge. And you've committed 5 years, 5 episodes a week. You haven't missed one, to putting out positive vibes, the positive head, positive vibes to the world. I've been fortunate to be a guest on the show a few times, and, you've just committed to that work and to that service, and, opening up to who you are and what you're capable of, as well as receiving, knowing that you can help other people. Because once our boat is afloat and we've learned how to be a strong sailor, the winds came and it busted up our boat, and then we're holding on to one piece of wood because our boat got destroyed, and like, oh, this is terrible, right? But all the appreciation and learning and experience and value and beauty from that challenge is extraordinary. And
Yes.
It is valuable. And so, but are we capable of making a masterpiece? 100%. Each and every one of us. And these are universal and timeless and ancient laws that apply to all of us. And you're going to need to effort it, right? And like with what you've done, you have put in the work also. You added the visualization, the spirituality, the mindsets, the perspective, being mindful of your vibration, and showed up to work each and every day, and put out content, put out service, refined it, overcame failure over and over again, grew, adapted, and did all those things. So you kept engaging in the process. So I think you're just a brilliant example of a modern spiritual entrepreneur, a brilliant podcaster, and most importantly, just a beautiful soul, and someone I'm honored to call a friend. So I love you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on.
Love you, man. You are definitely very beautiful reflection. Like I look at you and I just see and feel such a close extension of self. And, if anyone came here to be a smooth sailor, I mean, you definitely been on a few Viking ships, right? It had to have lifetimes on a Viking ship, man. And so we were probably there, like heaving the sails together, in the pouring rain. And it's just an honor to continue to co-create and weave with you. And I just look forward to continuing to do it in the future and getting, hoping to see your face here at the Mystic Manor sometime. And let's just keep doing it and focusing on, helping as many others as we can along the way. And such a pleasure and an honor to connect with each and every one of you out there as well. Just remember, you are as worthy as any other being ever has been, could be, or will be. That is truth.
I love that, man. That is a baller closer. Well, I appreciate you. Definitely go check out his book. Check out the audio book. It's an hour of distilled wisdom. That's incredibly hard to do. So I know it's going to be
about three.
Okay, well, yeah, okay, 3, but that's still incredibly hard to do. And so I'm just grateful for your work and your book. If you like the show, censorship is crazy bonkers. So please leave a review, share it, become a member if you wish, and also check out the Positive Head podcast, because Brandon has just so many amazing episodes, and we can link you up to, between our guests and what we're doing, amazing people out there that are, walking the path, and it's a beautiful supportive community. So thank you all for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.
Journey well, everyone.
See you, brother. Thanks for coming.